Hey, welcome to the Quartercast with your host Tiny Joe. Tiny Joe, say hi.
Guys, we are back with episode number 26 of the Corridor Cast. It's good to be here.
That was a hell of an intro.
I am your host, and I'm here with guests.
Okay, our real names, though. Our real names.
For real, yeah. No, let's
Sam,
do
I'm
this.
Ren.
Should we re-intro this so we don't murder people's eardrums?
No,
I don't think so.
It's hilarious. It's all good.
I think people like to have their eardrums destroyed.
It's a.
Which one of these
It's
knobs
like a
max out?
detox for your ears.
I'm Jake. What's your name? Sam.
You got it.
It's Jake, Sam.
Ren.
What's your name?
What's your name
Chris.
again?
Clinton
Chris.
Edwards. Zorkon 12.
So that's who's on the podcast today.
My name's Jorbis.
If you guys are listening only, and we
We've
got some.
confused
If you're
so many
listening
people.
only, you cannot hear the sound of the waves emanating from Jake and mine Hawaiian t-shirts.
yeah.
And I can assure you that while we look the same, our opinions will be different
Yeah, we
today.
have different brains.
Yeah, what's
but-
up with these T-shirts?
Well, actually,
Let's just not talk about
funny
them.
You should,
Okay.
We're just gonna
Are
like
they-
Funny you should
let it blow
ask.
over.
Okay.
Because today's sponsor is not the Corridor Digital Merch Store. It's Plug In Everything. That's right, guys. We're going to tell you more about them later. But for now, let's jump into our first topic.
Okay.
The Boston Dynamics video.
Speaking of plugins,
So recently we released a video called I don't even know what it's called. Boston Dynamics Robots Fight Back.
Yes.
New Robot Fights Back.
It was a viral hit. It blew up over the weekend.
Yeah.
And a lot of people saw it. A lot of news articles were written about it, and it was a big deal for us.
was a
So we're going to talk
fascinating-
about that a little bit here.
fascinating
Yeah.
experience.
So
yeah.
like, with me and Jake, what was it? We were in Portland. We were walking down. Well, let's go all the way back.
Yeah, let's
go.
roll this all the way back. What's the inception
It's
of
going to
this
be the
idea?
sound effect episode.
So here's the true inception is basically we had been talking with this company XNs who makes the motion capture suit. They were like, you want to mess with this? You want to get it on loan? I said yes. And then basically we had it in the studio. We played with it. We figured it out. You guys made the Transformers piece. And after seeing how that turned out and how cool it looked, we all kind of put our heads together. And I specifically remember you, Jake. You're like, this is so cool. We have to do something else with it before we give it back. And we're like, we definitely have to do that. And we put our heads together. We came up with a few ideas that we shot down. But then in a stroke of genius, Clint was like, what if?
It was me and Jake in Portland, and
What
we
if?
were like, just riffing on the porch, as you do.
yeah.
And we were like, yo, Boston Dynamics meets the XN suit, and it's the scientists beating up the robot,
Because
and it gets
we had a few other ideas before that.
because there's the Amazon warehouse one.
Yeah.
right?
That was the one that I remember thinking, all right, this is a solid idea. The idea being that, like, an Amazon robot is taking over our jobs.
Because Sam pulled up that article. It was like
It's like an Amazon robot that fires people, basically,
Yeah.
an algorithm that'll fire people. So we're going to literalize that.
Yeah.
Have a robot just like this Boston Dynamics guy rolling around firing people.
yeah.
Still funny, but
Yeah.
It didn't have that magic touch to it.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, it was just a lot of stuff needed to come together to shoot it. But yeah, this one kind of clicked, and it's funny because it was just like a parody at first, but who knew what it would blow up and become?
And then after the Amazon video, we went to geriatric Transformers,
Oh yeah, I forgot about geriatric Transformers.
which I don't know. Maybe that's more of a fun idea to talk about than it is to see. But
Oldsmobiles.
yeah, the
and,
Oldsmobiles.
Transformers and like Model T.
Yeah, that one we had a good time riffing on that. But then nothing felt quite right on those ideas until. And Clint, we were just walking down the street, and you're like, "Well, we could always go back to the Boston Dynamics idea." And I'm like, "What? What do you mean go back to it? Where did this come from? This is the perfect iteration of this concept."
Yeah. So I think the one thing is that we didn't actually set out to fool people with this.
No. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, kind of, but not really. That was.
We
that
set
wasn't-
out to make the most interesting, accurate parody
Yes.
of Boston Dynamics that we could.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
a side effect, it was try to make it as realistic looking as possible, but we didn't specifically set out with the goal of tricking people into thinking they were watching, mainly because we didn't think that was an achievable goal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
looking at it and going, this is awesome. It's icy hot. It looks 100% believable. But in this day and age, who, I don't know, who sees a video on the internet and believes it? I guess actually the answer is actually everyone. But
Well,
I
I think
don't know.
that,
We're optimists.
we were talking about how like the difference between people watching it on the Corridor channel versus people who saw just the snippet on Twitter or Instagram.
Yeah.
Because they didn't see the full video where we had like, hey, we're selling shirts too, and like it's just me goofing off in a green screen kind of thing.
To clarify that, basically what had happened is that for everyone listening and watching it who don't know, our video ended up getting ripped pretty much immediately and re-uploaded to every different media platform. Mainly
platforms, meme platforms, you know, like aggregates.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
mainly Twitter was the main place where the views started taking off. There was one
Yeah.
video that ended up with like 17 million views in 2 days, and several other videos with multiple millions of views, all on Twitter from different users re-uploading the video. And so when in the process of re-uploading it, they chop out the whole part at the end where it's like, hey, you know, check out our merchandise, where it's like, obviously the illusion is broken at this point. So without any of that, people are just scrolling through Twitter and they see this robot getting abused, and then the video ends. And you're like, dang.
It went crazy.
And you're like, okay, that Boston Dynamics is up to some shady stuff these days.
Yeah,
All right,
it's-
next tweet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've seen, I think the most effective cut down was the one that starts in the middle of the test. Like there's no one walking into the building. It's just boom, robots being tested, and some of them that ended before it actually goes rogue.
Yeah.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Because of Twitter's like video like limit, some of them were trimmed to be
The
that long.
limit is 2 minutes
Yeah.
and 20 seconds on Twitter.
So I found that really interesting because what that started to do is create this weird illusion that this could actually be a real video. And no one read the text in the bottom. We argued about this for so long. It was like, do we write Boston Dynamics or do we not do this? And then obviously there was this, you know, you were very clear, Jake. It was like, we can always change the title if we write Boston Dynamics there, but you cannot do it if it's baked in the video. So we ended up going Bosstown Dynamics. Yet, no one read it anyways, so it didn't
Right.
matter.
Because their eyes glaze over. They see Boston.
Yeah.
Well, they're not, they're just
Yeah.
like,
But I can't even read.
I feel like our brains are
serious,
so
like,
trained to just like
people-
ignore like watermarks
Watermarks,
and
yeah.
logos and stuff like that. Just like, oh, you just don't even think about it, especially if you're already familiar with Boston Dynamics. Because you're also staring at a robot getting kicked and shot in the face with a gun and stuff like that. So it's like you don't even look at it. But other people, it's the first thing they see. Like I showed a friend, she was like, Bosstown Dynamics. I was like, that was literally the first thing you saw.
The one guy who was like, I know this wasn't real because you guys have California plates, and obviously you're not in Boston.
That was funny. I saw that one too. Yeah.
I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
this guy aced it.
And then there was the people who were like, obviously this is staged. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, that one post you shared is so funny. It's like, obviously this was staged. And it's like, no, it's all CG. It's like, what?
No, it wasn't even.
It's like, I already knew this was fake, but that fake?
It wasn't even in just like what. It was like, I don't think you're right. I'm pretty sure it's not CGI in that they only staged it.
Yeah, it's like, no, they just got the old robot out of the closet to do some training simulations.
Dude, what? Someone
Yeah.
sent me a message on Instagram that was like, and they had to have been trolling me, but it was like this one guy. It was like CEO of Megacorp Industries, and like, hi, I'm an arms dealer, and I would like to purchase this robot that you use. I would like the statistics and whatnot, because we are looking into something like this for the future. Thank you. Goodbye. And
He said he was an arms dealer?
Could you find this again so we
Yeah.
can look at this?
So here's the thing.
'Cause that
it
is
sounds
incredible.
like an absolute joke until you go to his profile and check it out, and you're all of a sudden kind of like hesitating, like, wait a minute,
What
is he like
Instagram is
actually
it?
serious? Because he actually has a bunch of posts that are like,
I don't know if we want to call it out, but
I don't
I'll
think we
just
should
read it.
call it
I
out.
just want to read
let's-
it.
I don't read the exact name of the guy because, but I'm really curious because that is fascinating.
But I'm like, you went to a filmmaker's Instagram page. It should be incredibly obvious, just by judging at the other 8 posts surrounding the one.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Some
It's like-
people are
see,
so
I think
business oriented.
this is this a sign of the times, guys? Because you take something that think about all the layers going on here. It's like, okay, you've got Corridor Digital. We're a little studio here in LA. We make like high-end concept videos. Okay, we got this great motion capture suit, which is this really sort of cutting edge technology in the way that it functioned and allowed us as a small independent studio to access that technology and take advantage of it, right? Which isn't something that
Traditionally, it's always only been like big movie studios or big game studios,
Right.
Okay,
Because
sorry.
the equipment is expensive.
Why didn't you follow up
so
with that?
so
Clint?
that's tier 1,
Can.
right? That's tier 1, and then tier 2 is
Let me know.
you take all this experience,
Get more info.
the regular audience that we have, the experience we have making these videos, and we post it onto our primary social media platform, Corridor Digital on YouTube,
YouTube, yeah.
and it gets this initial amount
Friggin'
of,
green screen
of hits
segment.
and views. And then obviously people with these, so that's tier 2. We post it on a platform that has followers. And then people that have meme compilation platforms like on Facebook and Instagram, there's all these meme profiles. Tier 3, they take that, they chop it up, right? You take it out of context. You reduce the resolution of it. So it, and you put it onto like a Twitter post. So you go from like this 4K upload. I don't know if it was 4K or not.
It was
but yeah,
4K.
4K down to like 720. Then cut the heads and tails on it. Do just like 60 seconds or 2 minutes. Upload that back onto Twitter. Condenses it even further.
Well, yeah, it's the photocopy effect, where it's like
Yeah.
you're photocopying a photocopy because you're downloading an H.264 video,
Right.
re-uploading it, it gets reprocessed, then other people are downloading that one.
Right.
How many people were downloading the one Russian Twitter video as opposed to our YouTube video?
That's what I'm
They're probably
saying.
all downloading that one, so
Probably.
everything's just been like
And so now
garbled
there's
with,
no context. The concept is still there, like, right? Like the initial artistic concept that we went for is still there, but now there's no context. You're photocopying the work. And now it's like, is this real? Where did this come from? What is this?
And I think that's the interesting element here. We're kind of the nature of virality has changed since we started YouTube. Whereas previously the nature of virality was simply sharing the content directly from the source. Like there was certainly re-uploads from time to time, but I'd say like the true original virality was you create a YouTube video and then you have a direct link to it because it's easier to share a URL than just straight up download a video and re-upload it on your own
Yeah.
platform.
Email chains. That was the original viral.
yeah,
But-
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you have Facebook, you
Friggin'
post a
dancing
YouTube
baby.
link on Facebook or you put a YouTube link on Twitter or something like that. But it's crazy watching this go viral because the last video that truly went viral for us was the real GTA video. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. And
Nico would make an argument for Nerf John Wick, but I don't think that's nearly the same sort of caliber as like
it's-
real GTA.
I was totally. I mean, real GTA is still the most views in one day we've ever gotten on a video. That's
crazy.
But it's really interesting because the thing is there's like a it's kind of like a little paradox or like catch-22 kind of situation going on here where it's like we don't want people re-uploading and profiting off of our content, but without that, people can't share it across platforms and it can't go viral. Mm-hmm. Because
those
It's
other
very
media
interesting.
platforms literally suppress outside links. Facebook, I know for a fact, does this. If you
Yes.
share
That's what
if
they've
you
been doing
share a
for
YouTube
years.
video on Facebook, it's not going to get the same shareability. Whereas if you
Yeah.
just directly upload to Facebook, it's you're set.
Is it because they're not profiting? They're taking people out of their site.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, I think on Twitter, you can when you throw a YouTube link on there, it still embeds and it still plays even on a mobile app. So it's not like.
But it doesn't autoplay in the tweet itself, and that's the key difference.
I guess that is the key difference. But it's so they're always prioritizing their own content over external links.
So without trying, I think we introduced not without trying, without effort, but without trying to do this end, we've found ourselves in a position where we caught a little bit of light being shed into what it's like to create fake news and all these other kinds of things that are a little bit more sinister with social media.
Yeah.
Because you can very easily see how you can go from like a viral video made by a regular studio, regular guys just like us, to somebody being like, hey, I'm going to incept this story or this idea into the universe.
Yeah,
And-
with like malicious intent.
Yeah, with malicious intent, understanding that this is how things work. Someone takes it, they re-upload, you photocopy effect, you
Yeah.
re-upload it to these different platforms. There's not enough context. You don't understand what it is. You don't understand where the source material came from. And all of a sudden there's a piece of
Yeah.
information out there.
But I think, yeah, and it's funny because for me, like we make the video, we put a lot of work into it. When I see it re-uploaded on someone else's page, when they don't credit us and they're profiting off of it in some form or another, the only like satisfaction I get when I see that is knowing that I tricked people into thinking that a robot has come to life and is fighting back, and they legit got freaked out. And like I take like it's so much satisfaction. Like I love freaking people out like that. I love hiding in a closet all day and someone hops in the room and I'm like, ah! Like same feeling.
The fact that like CNN had to make an entire article clarifying to millions of people that no, this video is fake. Relax, it's okay.
Yeah.
Which makes me like kind of feel a little bit better that like if we really tried to fake people out, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, it got caught on day 3, maybe even day 1 or 2. There was other sites saying it's fake before CNN, right?
Yeah.
But what if we put it out without the ending, where we were like selling shirts? What if we put it out without any context, and maybe even minus the shot where it's getting shot in the face? Like, would people just be like, this is real, this is real, this is real? Or would there just be, still people would be like, zoom in, you can clearly see here that it's not real, blah, blah, blah.
You'd have to take a few more steps than that, but like to just take that and extrapolate it. Like if we were a fake news organization, we had some agenda, we were hired by somebody to be like, hey, put this out into, some backdoor alley, like briefcase deal. Like, okay, so you put it on, first of all, put it on Facebook. And that's the first place, right? And then Twitter and Instagram, and do it from a profile that create a few posts beforehand. So like the
throwaway profile. Yeah,
throwaway profile, so that the platform thinks that you're a legitimate profile, and then you put something like this out there. And
I mean, yeah, it goes back to our intent. The fact that like trying to fool people wasn't our number one intent. It was like second or third in the list of things. Like number one was like, we're just trying to make a fun video. You know, it's like
something funny. Yeah.
And 2 is like just try to maintain a caliber of quality that we've always tried to do, which is just try to make it look good. And a side effect of that is when it looks good enough, it actually looks real and you can start fooling people. But trying specifically to fool people wasn't our, I mean, we have Bosstown Dynamics in the frame of every single shot. If we were actually trying to fool people, we would have just said Boston.
Right.
Yeah.
Next time.
Next time.
No.
Next time we say corridordigital.com/store.
Yeah, no. So it's been really interesting seeing that blow up. I mean, like Wiz Khalifa saw it. Stephen Fry was straight up fooled by it. It's like I feel like anyone who actually sees the video and tries to figure out if it's fake or not will be able to conclude pretty easily and quickly that it's not a real video.
Yeah.
The people we're fooling are the ones who didn't put any effort into discerning it. Like they're just like they just see it on their Twitter timeline or Facebook feed, and they just scroll by it, and there's an inherent trust that what you're seeing as a video is real.
Right.
Dude, that's the craziest part, because like people, I mean, I do it too. I'll just read a headline and be like, oh, that sucks, and then I'll keep going. I don't read the full thing if I don't care that much, but I read the headline, I'm like, oh, interesting. I think now I know that it's like I'm not gonna just judge the book by its cover.
Yeah.
And believe it.
Dude, this conversation though is just leading me to like what we have to do for the next one. It's gonna be. I know. I'm not even gonna say what it is, but we've talked about it already, dude.
Are you saying you want to try to make this as realistic?
We should not do that.
Foolproof as possible.
I'm in. Because I'm in.
Firearms training, indoor, outdoor.
Oh yeah.
Like a kill house, with like little walls, and he walks through with like a pistol and tries to shoot targets.
And then you
like,
put it through the 3-gun.
We can't
thing.
even talk about this.
I know.
Someone's gonna do it.
I know. We've already shot it.
That's right, we have.
It's already
been
uploaded.
done.
It's set to private.
Delete that clip.
It's scheduled.
Sam, I want to hear about the sound design process on this video, because
the
behind the scenes talks a lot about the visual breakdown between Clint and I, but you did a lot of work on sound design.
Yes, and I think that helped fool people quite a bit, because I tried to keep it like really rich and like meaty, I guess, but still keep it very bare bones, because I started by doing a pass of like funny sci-fi gizmo gadget servo sounds, and that helps like accentuate things and bring like a little bit of like a emotion to it, I guess, because basically I would go through all the key moments where it turns or does a sharp movement or something like that, and I put specific sounds in for that, so it's like constantly, I guess it's like ear candy, you know what I mean, where you're just like and so it sounds really cool, but that wasn't what made it sound realistic. And what I did to make it sound realistic is I literally just took parts that were metallic or like metal beams and rods, things like that. And I went back to the loading dock where we filmed it and just got raw Foley of just like shit, like hitting the ground, like all the footsteps, all that stuff. And I did it in the same exact space that the scene was filmed.
Yeah.
So that way it sounded exactly like it was happening in front of us. So all the metal clanking,
Because
things
you're
like
mixing
that.
that sound with the actual real sound that was captured of us like
Yeah.
shuffling around the ground, actually hitting Clint
Exactly.
over the back with the hockey stick.
Yeah, and so having all that spatial like reverb and all that stuff match exactly makes it just very convincing.
Well, I remember, at least initially, one of your first or second passes of sound design, whereas like everything was basically there. I felt it was still a little too sci-fi because I remember like there was some sound effects that sounded like straight out of the Transformers movies, like that. There's a very unique like electrical mechanical sound. That was actually pretty good. So you had some of that in there, and it was like every time I heard it, I was like, this is just breaking the illusion for me. It just sounds
Yep.
like that little friggin' mini robot from the second
Well, it sounds
Transformers
like
movie.
produced. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds
Yeah,
produced.
produced exactly.
And that was that
but
first
at some
pass,
point
yeah.
after that, in the final upload, you did something differently. Because I remember listening to the final thing and being like, that sounds so real. Sounds so real.
That's great.
And I didn't have a chance to tell you that.
Thank you. Well, I the key to making it sound like real at that last stage, like getting that fake Transformers element, was basically taking all those produced sounds I had and making them about half as loud as everything else in the scene. Like each time a box is dropped or smacked or the robot's hit or a footstep, like the impacts in the scene are loud, and everything else, like if you had a robot like that in the scene, it's not going to be just like, you know, it's not going to be that loud, so to speak. So I made sure to keep it as subtle as possible and let just like the footsteps like that.
Yeah.
I'll make the impacts actually hit and reverberate.
Well,
through
plus
the
you also
yeah.
used my my drone for some of it.
And then that was the little key, yeah.
Yeah,
the
you used like the
beeps.
little startup beep. There's a
funny.
very unique
Yeah,
startup
yeah.
beep when you plug in. It's like doo-doo-doo-doo.
Yeah, exactly. So I took that, chopped it up, messed with the pitch so that it didn't seem like it was the drone startup sound, and
Yeah.
just did like little beep responses.
And we tried actually doing a thing where it's like I actually would like try to like move the motors around and have it like do things in correlation
Yeah.
with the video. But was it like there's a dog barking or an airplane or something like
two
that? It's just
things.
like it didn't work.
One, it ended up being like really subtle. Actually, it didn't have like the size. It felt too small. But then the second part was that the high pitched whine of the servos made the dog that was like above us in like the loft above us start barking. So there's just this woof sound that just I couldn't deal. I just couldn't clean it up. It's just like
Woof.
Dude, my favorite thing that you did in the sound design, Sam, was the end when right before I kick right in the nuts. The sound you put, it was like,
oh yeah, it was the beeps.
It was
Yeah,
that was amazing.
have it. Yeah, you basically have to make it talk by like doing musical notes or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
But so you mentioned like kicking me in the nuts. That was an interesting solution that we had on set. So initially you're like, all right, I'm just gonna try to kick you in the nuts, but not actually kick you. I'm just gonna get really, really close. You have to trust me. And like you did one test kick, and I was like, hell no.
Yeah.
I can't handle this. I was like, you may have been like maybe a foot away, but it was still too much to just mess with my house. Like
The shockwave of his
can't
foot
do it.
rippled in your crotch, and you're like, way too close.
So what you did, and you can see this in the side-by-side comparison videos, that you did the full kick with your thigh, but you didn't extend your knee. And then when you did the same thing to Jake behind you, you did a full-on kick, but you didn't fully extend your leg, because we can actually go through and animate that leg to be extended
CG nut
because we
shot.
have that control.
We can do it.
We have that
You
ability.
did it, and you did it really quickly and easily too. I think.
must
Yeah.
be hit on the nuts again. Hey guys, before we jump into our next topic, which is going to be about deepfakes. That's right. I wanted to tell you a little bit about today's sponsor. That's right, Plug In Everything. Plug In Everything has a bunch of awesome After Effects plugins. Now, we use them over here. They've also been used by companies all over the world, including Google and Warner Brothers. One that they wanted us to tell you about today is Deep Glow. Deep Glow takes your organic lighting from your footage and it makes it way, way, way cooler. It's for After Effects, so if you guys are looking to do anything in that program, consider Plug In Everything. There's a link in the description below. You can also go to plugineverything.com and peruse, have a good time. And I think after this, Ren's going to tell us about one called Coffee Break, which apparently can extend your render times. more on that later. But anyways, huge thanks to Plugin Everything, guys. Go and check them out. Link in the description. Now, back to the next topic.
Hey, and we're back. Hey! Your host, Little Baby Joe. Say hi, Little Baby Joe.
So that was the Plugin Everything part?
Well, they already know that.
Okay, I mean,
'cause you just
right,
told
but
them.
I know it now too. So did you talk about the coffee break
Tell them
plugin?
about that.
Okay,
one. Tell
So
them-
there's
tell
this.
them about- well, yeah.
This is the
Tell them about that one,
weirdest
too.
plugin ever. So they have a whole list of plugins, but there's this one effect that is called extended coffee break, and it's an effect that you apply when it comes to rendering that will actually slow down your computer. So instead of like a 5-minute render, it'll take half an hour. So as it's rendering, typically like, oh, my computer's rendering, I can't do anything about it.
We gotta play a game of Smash.
Yeah. So it's like you can actually now delay that if you want to. It's kind of messed up. It's shady and it's malicious.
It's like
as
12 frames, and it's like, hey, you want to get some Korean barbecue? This 12
Hey,
frames.
man, I got these 12 frames.
But
They're
if that's
8K.
if you hate your job rendering for
8K.
whatever reason, and you want to like extend that out so that you can take an extended lunch break, that is an effect that you can do.
Boss, I can't work anymore. I'm
rendering, All right.
The damn computer's too slow.
So anyway, we already told you guys where to get it. Plug in everything.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, if you want your boss to buy you a fast new computer, just use that plugin every day.
He buys you a $20,000 machine.
Yeah.
Gets you one of those Pugits, those 12-core Pugits with 17 graphics GPUs.
18,000 cores.
What else do I have to do? I buy you the best computer money to buy, and your renders are still taking hours.
It's about that sharpness inflection at the end. That anger, like sharp anger inflection. And your renders are still taking hours.
Hours.
If I could fire you, I would. But your specialized skill set keeps you in this office.
Too unique.
Okay, anyways.
Okay, so anyway, we
You never
talked in the previous topic. We were talking about how the Boston Dynamics video led to this realism that we didn't think it would happen, and just to link up our next topic, deepfakes.
Depth faking.
The 26. Just I'm going to bring in a couple world events here, okay? Cultural zeitgeist events. The 2016
Zeitgeist.
presidential election in the United States of America was fraught with all these stories and conditions of fake news, and then later it came out, and the Congressional Intelligence Committee and multiple other sources of highest authority have stated and admitted, look, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of stories introduced on social media to affect public opinion. Now, with deepfakes, right now it's 2019. We have an election coming up next year, okay? There's already been some deep faking recently with
Really?
one with Nancy Pelosi. That
wasn't a deep fake, though.
sorry, it wasn't a deep fake, but it was
wasn't? I don't know the clip you're talking about.
it was a thing where somebody had basically made her say something she didn't say.
Crazy.
And for about 8 hours or so,
We should
it
watch.
was a story.
We should watch the clip because I heard it was something different. Did you watch the clip?
No, I did not. I
We should-
read about it in a news
Okay.
article after.
I might either we watch it or I would maybe put that one on the side. To be totally honest, I think he just literally slowed the video down.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that.
Either way, like
Okay.
that is just sort of a
Just the beginning.
stepping stone to
Sure.
what I'm really getting to, which is
Sure.
like, are deepfakes going to be good enough next year to actually affect like people's opinion to fake people out?
I think so.
Here's the thing. I know you're going to bring Nico in here to talk about more deepfakes because out of everyone here at the studio, he's the biggest pro on it. But like, he just gave us this whole like hour-long tutorial on how to do deepfakes, and now I know each one of us can do it. Like, it's not a hard skill to learn, and that's what's scary is that like
Right.
it's low barrier to entry. Like literally, you just download this free folder of files, and once you learn how to like use which file, suddenly you can now do deepfakes. You don't have to know how to do After Effects.
Well,
or
So
something
you have to
like
have a
that.
computer
I'll
with a
be
good
honest.
graphics card.
High-end
Yeah,
computer,
so I think deepfakes in the realm of like personal attacks and like that kind of scandal stuff, like someone being, having an affair or things like. Okay, so first off, like I think Trump has shown us right now that no one cares anymore about that. Like, oh no, Hillary Clinton had an affair. Oh,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not necessarily saying, like, obviously they'll be used for all kinds of things, but I'm saying, like, across the board, there's so many different situations you could use them for to, like, make up a story, not necessarily about someone
I mean,
in particular, but,
Yeah, you
but
could
about like a situation that's representative of something going on between party politics,
can
things
we
like
concede-
that.
It could be anything, and that's the
what
point.
yeah.
And I have a very strong feeling that late next summer, like once we get into like August of 2020, that's when we'll actually start seeing some of these things pop up. Because all it takes is like you're saying, just someone with our skill set and malicious intent,
Right.
Specifically focused on trying to fool people. We're gonna start seeing those videos pop up
over a long period of time. Like if I think that if we don't know if it's real or not, that's when it's the issue, because it's like we just put out a bunch of stuff.
Right now,
not we as a company, but
no
like,
deepfake is realistic enough to fool people.
Let me just
And also, I just want to point another thing out with the deepfake thing. Deepfake requires an actor and a set and like a camera. Like you have to stage the scene ahead of time, like the moon landing or something like that, for example. And then you can deep. Wow, I'm joking. That was a joke. But you know what I'm saying? Like it's not just about like it's not as easy as you think. It's literally a production. You have to film a scene with actors and a visual effects supervisor and stuff like that, basically.
let me pose a question to you, Sam.
You put the face on there, so it's like there's so many fake things in the scene already that might be easy to point out that I feel like it's still gonna be tough.
I agree. Right now, that's where it's at. I think obviously the technology is going to continue to get better. But if you take, Christian, can you pull up this news article? Just right there, the image that you have of Vladimir Putin, where there's two of them side by side.
Now, technically, there are different kinds of deepfakes. The one deepfake we've been doing is basically taking a performance and putting it on someone else, as opposed to just changing an initial performance to say something else.
That's what I'm mostly concerned about, is the ability to take the same person and change their performance and change the things that they say.
And I think that's going to be harder because I think that's like the performance mapping thing where you are literally. Yeah, so that I feel like that's a whole nother thing.
Technically, that's not a deep fake, right? But
I feel like that's
I don't know.
2024. That's when we'll see
I
that
know
stuff.
Nico's all about saying like what technically is or is not a deepfake, but I think we're very quickly approaching deepfake is now a term that applies to any sort of manipulation of faces.
Yeah.
Just a broad stroke. It's a deepfake if you try to fool someone into thinking someone said
as a cultural
or did
term,
something
yeah,
that
like
it's
just
like
a shorthand
hey, he just
term,
photoshopped it. Which no,
exactly.
technically he's the marquee tool.
so-
and cut it up.
Here's my prediction. Here's Sam's official prediction. Check this out. All right.
Okay.
Deepfakes will be used in the next election, but they will not change people's minds. They will only embolden their pre-existing opinions.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
So,
you're right.
so,
yeah.
so imagine there's someone who likes to make fun of a Democratic or Republican candidate. They'll get an actor, put a wig on, they'll do their little spoof, they'll deep fake the politician's face onto it, and then they'll send it right back to their user base.
Right.
Who already believes everything they're saying and already believes it's
just
no more
digs
than
them,
a
like,
meme.
deeper.
Furthering the
Yeah,
divide.
it's like imagine we're doing a Hillary or Trump meme. Let's say you're a right-wing site and you make fun of Hillary every single day. Deepfake her onto another person's body, send it back out to your audience. Same. It's like it's not going to actually affect anyone's opinions because the only people who are going to believe them or share these things are going to be the people who already are in line with.
right, but
The
It could
purpose
also keep
of,
that's
of
still
that
that's
meme.
still dangerous. Though.
I
Yeah,
agree. It's
oh,
dangerous.
100%.
But
Yeah.
it's as, I would say it's just as dangerous as what we already saw, where it's like it's this internet meme culture that affects politics and
Yeah,
like making fun of people.
Oh yeah, I don't know
know
if it's more dangerous. I'm just saying it's another tool in the malicious man's toolbox.
Yeah.
You know.
The problem is it's good. Yeah, it's gonna be like a bunch of really tough right wingers either going after like Bernie or whatever, going like, oh, look at how much of an idiot Bernie is because he said all these dumb things, and you're gonna have a whole bunch of lefties on the other hand with probably some fake Trump videos going, oh, look how dumb Trump is,
But
look all the
this-
dumb things he
yeah.
said, and everyone is gonna, the world's gonna be exactly the same.
That
Trump's
is
still
what
gonna say dumb
happened
things,
before.
et cetera, et
That
cetera.
is what happened right before the 2016 election, not with deepfakes, but with news.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's just it's.
So to go back to what Clint was saying, it's just about how, you're scrolling a feed, you read an article, you see something, you take those 2 seconds like people did with the Boston Dynamics video, you move on.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you're not going to fool everyone, obviously, but if your fool success rate is 25%,
That's huge.
And your video got 50 million views,
yeah,
25% of
then
that.
now it's like that's real damage. So
Yeah, that's true.
what can be done?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, it's harmless in the sense that like we're already fucked. That's my method of thinking.
Yeah, but
because in this world like we're in, it's like we're going to be dealing with this now for the rest of eternity. I think
it's going to require a couple of things on the part of like the major media platforms out there. First of all,
I mean, there are companies that are already making software that specifically identifies something that is or is not a deep fake, where it originated from, all sort of like markers that should exist with classic videos.
Adobe released some things on that too right
so
now.
I think as this ramps up, we'll also start seeing more security ramp up. But before we change the topics on this,
super cool.
I think you guys.
Actually, I don't want to change topics.
No, that's what I'm saying. Before we change topics,
I want to see YouTube. I want to see Facebook. I want to see Twitter.
Well,
just like they scan the stuff for like profanity or content like that, they need to scan for fake stuff, and they'll have little markers and flags.
That was what I was going to suggest, Sam. Is the AI? You know that the AI technology that they're using currently is not being used nearly to the extent that it could be. You know.
Well, then it's getting way smarter every month.
Because that, and also verified profiles posting. Like say the algorithm. And I know that this makes it harder for individuals, and this is where the catch-22 comes in, because the algorithms should literally be only promoting news and content from verified channels.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, it's very hard to become a verified channel if you're a start-out person, start-out creator, start-out contributor. So, that's the catch-22. But I feel like no matter what, the talent will find its way through, so I'm not as concerned about that. But like, I think that's the only way you need like some human manual review with say like, okay, verify this channel manually, then only verified channels get bumped. And then that helps curb some of it.
But isn't there a difference between a news channel and an entertainment channel? Because like, what's to stop the algorithm from deciding between like a deep fake on the news and a deep fake for our Tom Cruise thing?
Totally.
So like, where's the line on that?
Right.
Dude, I think you just accidentally hit on a really deep question, because it's like all news these days are not, they're not news networks, they're entertainment channels. That's what they are these days.
Yeah.
But okay,
well, that's a good question. You're right though. But who says
Sorry, Red.
No, but moving on.
No, I don't.
Rand's
My point is, sorry, I'm trying to segue into getting Nico in here because
We'll get him in here. We'll get him in here.
But I'm
hold on.
sure
This
he
is
has
dope.
some
This is a good
opinions
conversation.
on.
Yeah, I feel like we should keep going
deepfakes.
here, and then we should bring once this conversation sort of tones down, then we should call in Nico and have him come in here too.
Okay, cool.
I think
It sounds good to me.
I think one of my biggest concerns are reading about the people who have to do the manual reviews at YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, who are taking down
PTSD.
all the content that we don't see.
Oh God, yeah.
And I've been reading about this stuff, and it is the most horrifying thing in the entire world.
What do you mean?
Facebook. Okay, so first off, these people are the people at Facebook, anyways, who have to review all the content that is like child pornography and like gore and stuff like that.
Dude.
They to combat that, they open up these giant offices of people who just have to do the manual like review of all posts, basically getting flagged and reported and stuff like that. Make the decisions whether to take it down or not. These are jobs that didn't exist years ago, but they do now. And from what I'm reading, it's like the working conditions are terrible. They're like super, super stressful. And then on top of all that, basically you have to watch child porn and gore all day.
Cool.
And so what are we turning these people into? It's like, what is going on? It is the most horrifying thing in the world. And the faster we can get AI to take that place of these people, the more healthy the human race is going to be.
That is a perfect solution for AI to take care of in the future.
Well, I mean, hopefully it can, but the problem is we have these companies now that like are in this position where they have to do this.
Oh, they have to
do
they
this.
Absolutely have
and there's
to.
no other way than by sending hundreds of people into these little cubicles to watch the world's worst images for like 8 to 12 hours a day. And it's like you think drone operators in Vegas have it bad, dropping bombs and stuff. It's like, no way, man. Like, no, that's probably way easier to come home from than these guys at Facebook. So crazy, right?
Dude, they need to like do some.
That is
go to
crazy.
The spa and,
like
chill and.
Yeah.
When
just
they're
go
not,
to we spa like 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And then go to Facebook, and then you just like watch, just like.
Because that, like, I always think that, like, you know, probably cops have really hard jobs because they deal with the worst of humanity on a regular basis. But this is deliberately dealing with the worst of humanity.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
it's not just like, oh, this person did this, it came up. Now here's all the other people that are normal. No, here's intentionally, we need you to look at this.
Yeah, they have to watch every single New Zealand shooter video, every single jihad beheading, every single, like, God knows what. But anyways, I'm going to stop talking about this.
Okay.
It's stressing me out.
We're already this video's already demonetized.
Demonized.
Demonized. All right. Well, should we bring Nico in here to talk about his take on deepfakes?
Yeah, no, I'd be really curious to hear it. So I will watch this podcast later.
All right, Ren.
Bye, Ren.
Thanks
It
for
was great
listening,
having you
everyone.
on.
All right, and 3, 2, 1. I'm Nico.
What a cut. What an edit.
I'll grab Nico.
Sweet.
Demonized.
Demonized.
You just got demonized.
Your video has been deemed
Demonized. The infernal speak. Don't you dare speak that infernal tongue at me.
All right, so Nico, to catch you up, we started with the Boston Dynamics video. That led into like this sense of like how things get photocopied and things get taken out of context. How that, if with done with malicious intent, that can create fake news. And then now, what's upcoming, a new thing that's sort of similar. What the possibilities are with deepfakes. And so we kind of went through that. Now bringing you in, we can just start with like, okay, Nico, you know a lot more about deepfakes than a few of us since you just did a whole thing on it. So tell us like what the process was like, maybe creatively, and then like we can get into some sort of the bigger picture stuff after that.
Great.
Okay, cool. And 3. Actually, Dean, I don't want you to cut this part. 3, 2,
Hi, Dean.
1. Hi, Dean. Hi, Nico.
You're doing a little bit of Joe Rogan style countdown.
I don't know.
No.
just counting.
There's gonna be a little snip there where he leaves and you
We
come
don't
in.
mention his name.
We don't say
mention Joe.
We don't say what happened.
Joseph Rogish.
Joe.
So
Joe.
yeah, we're talking about deepfakes. We're talking about the implications of deepfakes. But I think first, before we get into that, it would be cool to hear from you, like creatively, what it was like creating this first video that we just put out, and then sort of where you think the technology is at.
Right, for sure. So I'm assuming that most people listening to this podcast have probably seen on the Corridor Crew channel and most of our Instagrams that we have this deepfake
Hopefully,
video. of
subscribe,
Tom
guys.
Cruise, yeah. If you're not subscribed, consider doing that. But yeah, so there's an idea I've had for a long time that I've been wanting to do, which is to hire a celebrity impersonator and put a deepfaked face on them. Because it's one thing to do effectively a mask, put a mask on somebody, a face swap. It's another thing to have the voice and the mannerisms and the costume and really the voice at the end of the day. That's the hard part. I know there's like some early stages like voice synthesizing tools, but even then, like you're not going to have nuance over performance. You know, like the moment where Evan, the impersonator, is telling me to untuck my shirt, like you can't fake that.
Yeah.
Even
Could you please untuck your shirt? It's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Not to mention, you know, being able to play off each other. It's the same reason you recorded Boston Dynamics with Clint actually in the shot. You know, you need to have human beings acting off each other.
Yeah.
Unless like you want zero spontaneity in your scenes. Anyways, so yeah, I had this idea to do this celebrity impersonator deepfake for a long time. Now, 2 years ago or so is when like the first deepfake stuff came out. Like before that, there's an academic paper where somebody basically wrote, you know, here's how you can train an AI to recognize facial patterns. And if you've ever seen like Google's Deep Dream or other things like that, you know, basically somebody boiled down like how our visual processing works, which is you see, you know, black and white, you see color, you see shapes, you see line, you see form, and then these eventually get turned into symbols in your brain. And the symbols basically are used for communication. Everything from as simple as, oh, that's a phone or a cup, to everything as complicated as, oh, the car is moving towards me at this speed. You know, that's
Right.
all just coming down from shape recognition and tonal recognition and that kind of stuff. And so if you step away and you abstract it all, you can do the same thing with a computer. It can recognize tones and shapes and forms and patterns, especially with a neural network, and you can kind of train that. And so just like how we can recognize faces, people, you know, basically these people at a university kind of figured out the same thing, and that's when the first like deepfakes were invented. Now these papers are published, the algorithms are published, and you know, it's not like somebody's just sitting there with a nice ready to go program. You just have an algorithm. Now, like, somebody out there has to sit down and do the work of turning it into a program.
Yeah.
And so somebody actually did that back in the day. And that's where like the term deepfakes comes from. It's from like this early software that people had made, or I think it's just a guy. The problem is it was like it was the roughest, like most basic program you've ever seen. Like you had to have a very specific driver version installed for your GPU. You had to have a very specific CUDA environment installed, a very specific Visual Basic environment installed. So like basically you had to have your computer frozen at that point in time to ever use the program.
Wow.
And so if you didn't have that specific GPU with that specific driver and that specific Microsoft .NET framework all installed in that machine in a very specific way, you couldn't run the program. So needless to say, very few people made deepfakes. And just recently, another guy, I think his name's Igor, could be wrong, came out with a program called Deepface Lab, which is using the same algorithms. People have had worked on the algorithms since then. People instead of doing a half face, which is from like the bottom of the lips to the top of the eyebrows, and they do, full face now, which goes all the way down to the chin. That was a new algorithm, for example, that somebody just basically made it bigger than the other one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's other little tweaks and quirks, and somebody's added, color matching, and somebody else added like edge blurring, and so all these little things have been added in to the program. And there's other programs out there too. I think there's one called like Face to Face. I guess Deepface is another one. But Deepface Lab is, in my opinion, currently the easiest to use, the most accessible. And what it does well is you don't need to have a very specific driver and .NET framework and stuff installed. You can run that on any NVIDIA card. And even if you don't have an NVIDIA card, there's versions you can run. So the way all this technology works, and I guess the reason it needs your GPU, is it's basically you're going to feed your computer a bunch of images of a human face, ideally of one human face. And your computer is then going to basically break these apart in GPU into like tonal regions and shape regions and stuff like that, and just try to start understanding the pattern. Not related, like it doesn't know what a face is, it's just going to learn patterns. And the nice thing is let's say, so we did Tom Cruise. I give it 5,000 pictures of Tom Cruise's face. That's how much you have to give it, because you need a smile, you need a frown, you need a smile from the left, a smile from the right. All those different poses you can make with your face. You need that from all angles, so you end up with a lot of images. And you feed it into the computer, and the computer starts looking at these images, trying to learn them. It's kind of like as if I were to look at Clint, like just look at him and then turn away and try to draw a picture of him. And at first glance, I might look at him and be like, okay, he has 2 eyes, 1 nose, a mouth, and believe it or not, a beard. I look back at Clint, I'm like, that was correct, but I drew his eyes too big. I drew his nose the wrong way. I drew his mouth the wrong way. So I'm going to go back and like refine this a little bit. Okay, let me look at Clint again. And let me look at my drawing again. Okay, these changes I made it closer to Clint. And that's one of the key things here is the computer needs to be able to take these synthesized images, compare it to the real thing, and see how good it's doing. And so like with the Tom Cruise faces, takes one of the faces, it's been going through them and kind of studying them, and then tries to replicate it. And it looks at the replicated face and it compares it to the ground truth, as it's called, the actual original face. Mm-hmm. And it says, well, how close are they? The things I did, does it match more? It's just doing a basic difference calculation, right? And if the answer is yes, the things you did made it match more, good. Keep doing those things. If the things you did make it match less, stop doing those things. And it just does that over and over and over and over, hundreds of thousands of times.
Like computers do. And little by little, it learns. It learns what made it look more accurate versus what made it look less accurate. So you do that for your actor's face, the face you're going to create the mask out of. You need to do a similar thing for your destination face, the face you're going to put the mask on. Just because the computer is going to need to understand, okay, the destination face is smiling, and I know what the actor's smiling face is looking like. Now I can recognize what the destination face is looking like in terms of like, oh, it's smiling or it's looking to the left. I know how to recreate that already, so now I can put the two together and generate a new synthesized face. And at the end, it's like, it's not actually like that crazy technology. It's just an application of a thing that computers can do now these days, which is you have a GPU, which can do billions of calculations very quickly, basic calculations, but it can do those basic calculations. So if you can break down a task into billions of basic calculations, well, then you can generate, for example, a face. But you can also do it with other things. You can make a tree generator. You can make a cloud generator. You can make a image denoiser. All these things kind of boil down to the same thing, which is pattern recognition. Like, for example, someone did an image denoiser where all you had to do was
take an image from a spot with the same camera, take one without grain, so like say do a long exposure at night on a street, and then do the same picture with grain, and then give that to the computer. The computer looks at it and goes, okay, so this is what it looks like without grain, and this is what it looks like with grain, and I can use pattern recognition to understand that this grainy part should actually look like this not grainy part. So then you can grab a new grainy, noisy picture from the same camera, feed it to the computer, and it goes, oh yeah, I know what it's supposed to look like without grain now.
You mean it's like so many plugins
Yes.
that we use?
It is, but it's a little bit different in that you're training it first. Like a lot of plugins we use, like our denoisers that we use, are basically looking at the same frame or like the same spot of a frame over a couple different points in time to kind of figure out what it's supposed to be. But what we're getting with AI now is that you're teaching the computer, it's learning. I mean, that's why it's called artificial intelligence. It's not just a plug and play math function. It's an actual thing that changes based on what it's learned.
Mm-hmm.
But, we have to understand that learning to us, to a human being, is a vastly more complicated system of learning than it is to a computer. Learning to a computer is basic things like, I'll do this routine, I'll measure the output. It has to be simple, measurable outputs, and then you can have it lean one way or the other. I actually so when I went to college, I studied a little bit of computer science, and there was one class I really wanted to take, which was Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. To take that class, you had to take 2 semesters of calculus. By that point, I wasn't a computer science major anymore. I was an art major, but I really wanted to take that AI class. So I took 2 semesters of calculus so I could take that AI class. And it was actually really, really useful and really interesting. At the end of the semester, you had to do a project where you had to make some sort of AI-based thing. Some people made like a image recognition thing. Some guy made like a game where you could play Mario just by like moving your body. And it's all basic stuff where it's like, the computer learns that you're facing it, or you're leaning left, or you're leaning right. Basic image functions. And what we did is we made the game Mancala. Mancala is kind of like an African version of like chess or checkers. Basically, you have pockets with beads in them, and you're trying to lift up the number of beads, and you place one in each pocket as you move towards the end pocket, and you want to drop your last bead in the end pocket to get a point. Whoever has like the most points at the end of the game basically wins. The nice thing about Mancala is that it's I forget the term here, but it's a game that has very specific branched functions where it's like you can either move this or you can move this, and that leaves you with 2 new states. And then from those new states, you can do this or you can do this, and that leaves you with 2 more new states. So it's almost like a tree of decisions. It's not like suddenly halfway through, like somebody drops a bomb and the board blows up and all the pieces get randomized. It's a very specific decision tree. And chess is the same way. The problem with like trying to teach a computer chess, where so the most basic form for an AI for that, the computer just runs the decision tree as deep as it can. It's like, okay, if I did this move, what happens? Okay, if I did this move, what happens? If I did this move, what happens? Okay, what if I did this move and then I did this move afterwards, what happens? The problem with like chess, for example, is you have like, I forget how many pieces you have. It's something like 24 pieces or something like that. So, what's 24 times 24 times 24 times 24? Like suddenly it becomes an impossible number to calculate. Like 3 moves into chess for every piece, suddenly it becomes something like a computer can't handle. It's just too many decisions. So you have to start shaping it where it's like, look, you don't need to measure dumb decisions. Hey, does this decision get your like queen taken? Yeah, don't continue down that decision tree. So you start pruning your decision tree. And these things, I think the term for them is heuristics. I could be slightly wrong, but you basically start influencing it with kind of shaped things. So this Mancala game we made. So where I'm going with this is that we had a grad student on our team. Most projects in like school, you don't get lucky enough to have like a grad student on your side, but we had a grad student on our side. So we built a basic Mancala game, right? Where it's like you run the decision tree as deep as you can. It was like you could go 6 decisions in. It's good. And you can add some extra things like, does this, at the end of these 6 decisions, you may not be at the end of, you may not know who wins or lose, but do you have more points or less points? So there's a way to measure a decision. Is it good or is it not good? Do you have more points or less points? Or are you set up now to do a couple more moves that will give you points? So you can measure these things, but you don't quite know how to weight it, right? Like how important is it to be strategically set up versus how important is it to have more points? And so this grad student, being extra smart and knowing way more about this than any of us, he sets up an option here where we have this game, and he has it run this game thousands of times on all the computers in the computer science building at night when no one's using them.
Started farming.
He did a whole AI farm on this. And basically what he did is he had like a variable to each one of these values. Like, so you have your do I end up with more points? And he had a variable to it, right? That would weight it. So the final thing would have a weight of like, how important is it to have more points? How important is it to be more set up? How important is it to have like less pieces in these parts? It's like, and he added just like an X, Y, Z variable to that. And that would be randomly shifted, randomly weighted. And this is where the learning comes in. Because the computer's not learning when it just does a decision tree. That's basic logic. Anybody can do that. You can do that with a pen and paper. The learning comes in where the computer looks at it and goes like, okay, I'm going to apply a value of 5% to points. It's important to have points. Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm going to apply a value of 10%. I'm going to apply a value of 15%. Which one of those is now going to giving me the most victories? Oh, 5% is. Okay, now I've learned it's only 5% important to consider points. And that's what this guy did, is he basically did this for all the variables, for all the different things that you could possibly have in the program, ran it on thousands of computers, and little by little, the formula honed in the most optimized AI to play Mancala. And so currently, I think I still have it, probably the best AI Mancala ever made. And it can beat any other Mancala game we could find. Like I went online, I tried any Flash game we could find, it could beat everything, because I don't think anyone else has ever wasted as much time programming a Mancala AI. But that's when I understood learning and AI learning. And that's not so much like how we view the world. It's a much more simple version of just repeating a task and then measuring the outcome, and repeating the task and measuring the outcome, and repeating the task and measuring the outcome. And that's kind of how it is with deepfakes. You're just learning little patterns, and you're putting them down, and you're repeating the task and measuring the outcome until you end up with something that looks like your ground truth. So yeah, it's crazy. It's like, at one hand it's complicated, but on the other hand it's so natural. Like, we're so familiar with this world that like it's not complicated.
So how far are we from being able to do this, like with have it be built into your OS on your phone?
I think, well, that's a good question, because you have to train it first.
Yeah.
Now, once you've trained it, you could have the model built in. Like, so right now we have a very good Tom Cruise deepfake model, and I could grab a video of you, Jake, and I could slap Tom Cruise's face on you, and it would look pretty good in about an hour. Versus like, it took about 4 or 5 days to train the model on just in general. But now that it's trained, I could put it on you pretty quickly. I would need to train it on your face so it knows where your eyes are and what your mouth looks like, because maybe it thinks your mustache is your lips. It doesn't know until it practices on your face a little bit.
Right.
So theoretically, it could just be built into your phone or your OS, but it would need to be trained first. I think that kind of stuff actually happens with Siri on your phone. Like, Siri starts to attune herself. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but this is based on my experience. Siri starts to attune herself, or himself, if you have it set to the guy, to your voice. So I can be next to my wife, and I can say, "Hey Siri," and only my phone turns on, and hers doesn't.
Really?
Because it's been trained over time, little by little, to understand the difference in our voices. I mean, we could try it right now.
That's got to be the case, because when they first introduced Google Home and stuff, and when they first introduced, they weren't that good.
No, they weren't.
Remember when we first got the original Google Home?
Yeah.
And we could barely do anything, and then like 3 months later, we tried it again, and it was way more advanced. It's like, wait a minute, this thing.
That's crazy.
So I'm gonna do a little test here. I have Sam's phone. I have my phone. Sam, do you have your Hey Siri turned on? Okay. Hey Siri. There it is. My phone turned on. Sam's didn't.
Wow.
Hey Siri.
What?
And there's Sam's phone turned on and mine didn't. So
Whoa.
Siri has actually been trained to your voice little by little. It's just happening in the background.
But that's something that happens on launch, though. I thought you give it like a little bit of a voice print, right? When you,
Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay.
But every
Wait.
time you're doing it, you're giving it a
Do it
voice
again.
print.
Try and sound like Sam.
Hey Siri.
It worked. No, I'm just kidding. It didn't work.
Here, wait, let's try this. Clint, say it. We'll hold up both our phones. You say it, and let's see if either of our phones turn on.
I don't know. Siri turned on.
No, you just say it to our phones.
Oh,
Let's
for
see
real?
if.
Ready, Sam? Hey Siri. Hey Siri.
It's probably your.
I got Christians.
Christians.
I got Christians.
Yeah. Just for what's worth, me and Sam are sitting 2 feet away from
Okay,
Clint.
here,
Christians
one
across the
more.
room.
Hey Siri. Hey Siri. There goes Christians again.
All right, Jake's turn.
Hey Siri. Hey Siri.
Here's how I say it. I have a downward inflection. Hey Siri. So try it like that. Okay, with that inflection.
Hey Siri.
Hey Siri. Just got mine.
Man.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I mean, it
isn't
might
it?
be
pretty
reading
nuts.
it from an initial OS setup.
I never
thing,
did a patternization. For
No,
mine.
iOS 9. Yeah, it's you train. I think you basically just go, hey Siri, hey Siri, hey Siri, like 2 or 3 times right when you start it up, and it takes that as the initial voice print. Probably, I would imagine that it builds off of that, but I don't think it's automatic.
That's crazy.
There's definitely, well, either way, I think it's pretty clear that there's definitely deep learning
Yeah.
going on.
And it's great. I love it.
Yeah, it's going to be very. We were talking about how a perfect application for stuff like that is these takedown videos. Because right now, Sam was saying how there's just so many people that are just physically watching these things and how draining it is to watch all this horrible content. I mean, the better that deep AI gets, that's a perfect application for it right there.
Yeah,
It's just to be like, nope, nope.
Did you watch Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I've seen every episode. Yeah.
Do you remember that scene where the guy like, makes the hot dog recognizer?
Yeah.
But then he needs to go through and train it and like recognize hot dogs instead
only
of penises?
recognizes hot dog.
And so he ends up having to sit there and like look at all these pictures and tell whether or not it's a hot dog or a penis. So he just like look at thousands of pictures of penises. There you have it. That's AI in a nutshell.
Jin Yang. Damn you, Jin Yang.
Yeah. So I'm pretty excited about deepfake technology because at the same time, people like act like deepfakes are like, oh, it's going to change the world. Politicians are going to like be framed for things. And it's like, that's not quite how it works.
That's the dramatic version. The framed
Yeah.
for thing is the
Yeah.
dramatic version. The like slightly tweaking people's thoughts is the
real version.
That's the real
That's
version.
what we were talking about. Is like it can be used to embolden people's current beliefs rather than introduce them to new views.
Right.
I think
You know?
I think
It's
actually
like, I saw this video that reaffirms everything I already believe about this person.
but it's fake.
But it's fake. I don't care that it is. I didn't take the time to figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm one of the 25% of people who just scrolled past it, made my opinion, and then moved on. And now it's reinforcing my belief, which is perpetuating me down a road of non-truth.
Exactly, and I think that's the key here. Actually, I've never really thought of it this way, but I think something just clicked for me. I think it's that incremental change, that the small, nearly invisible incremental like steering of one's thoughts.
Plants
that
a
is-
seed.
It's almost not even. I mean, it's like the grain of sand thing, or it's like Chinese water torture version, where it's
Yeah.
a droplet at a time.
Yeah.
No one droplet is the end of the world. But
Yeah.
it's not like. So, for example, you have a deep fake of President Trump saying, "We declare war on North Korea." It's like, everyone doesn't just take off in their planes. You know what I mean? That's not that dangerous, to be honest. Like those huge, big ones. But it's that idea of small, subtle changes. The things. It's the same thing that like all social networks right now are facing when it comes to like how they handle content, how they handle censorship, how they handle who gets demonetized or flagged or not like that, and like the whole social culture surrounding it. So I think that's definitely the weirdest, scariest part, because it's kind of invisible still.
Yeah, it's like this invisible critical mass that it's sort of leading to.
The your example of we declare war, right? And then people from North Korea see that and they're like, what? What? And they're like, maybe for a split second, they're gearing their minds to like, about time, let's go. And then they find out, oh no, it's fake. And they're like, oh, I was ready.
The thing is, deepfakes don't let you do that. Like deepfakes
I know,
are
but
a
it
mask.
just the idea of it though is like where you in your mind you're ready to go for a second, but then you realize it's fake and you're like, oh, it's like you save up for something, you're gonna buy a new car, and you save up, and then it's like, I was ready to buy it, like, oh, but I'm not gonna buy it because the new car came out, but like I was ready to buy it, I might as well just do it. I was ready.
I'm seeing so many people use deepfakes as just a catch-all term for like faking somebody else.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think it's just worth. I'm a technical guy. I like to be specific. I want to get technical here. Deepfakes are only when you take somebody else's face, basically generate a mask, and put it onto a new person. So, like for example, there's a video going around of Obama saying, or basically they took I think was it Key or Peele? I think it was Jordan Peele. He had like
Keegan does an Obama impression.
one of them had done like an Obama impression, and they had Obama actually saying it. And I was like, whoa, look at this deep fake. Like, that's not a deep fake. That's performance retargeting. If it was a deep fake, you'd either put Jordan Peele's face on Obama, or you put Obama's face on Jordan Peele. It would still be Jordan Peele's body or Obama's body with
Oh, it
one
is
of the
Jordan
other
Peele,
person's face. So this is not a deep fake that we're looking at here, because this is called performance retargeting, where they're basically doing a two-dimensional
Right.
morph
So
of Obama.
yeah, but this is arguably going to be the thing that emboldens people more to believe what they currently believe, even if it's wrong, than actual deep fakes.
Yes, and so what's going on here is it's a similar thing that it's like pattern recognition, but you have this source of Obama, and he's in all these different poses with all these different like mouth shapes, right? And as Jordan Peele is doing his performance, the computer's basically going in and finding the little snippets from Obama that match that. It's like, okay, here he's smiling, or here his mouth is in an O shape, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's taking that little bit and using that little puzzle piece for that little spot. And then okay, now his eyebrow, he blinks here. So it goes through the video, looks for where Obama has blinked. And similar thing, using that as a little puzzle piece for that little spot. And deepfakes are similar, but this is literally just taking footage of Obama, breaking it out into little puzzle pieces of everything, and then reassembling those puzzle pieces based on a new pattern, which is different than a deepfake, which is basically taking out somebody's face, effectively turning it into puzzle pieces, but then putting that on top of a new face after learning the structure of it.
Yeah.
I saw that. Wait, there's another little clip. There was like these girls tearing up a gun range target, and then someone just like comped the Constitution onto it, so they're tearing that apart instead.
Right, but this goes
Never
to show you
again.
that, like that's one of the girls from the Florida shooting.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, how many people believed that was the thing
Oh,
where
I'm
it
sure
was
a bunch of
actually
dumb
the
people believe it is
Constitution
real.
instead of
It looks real. I don't know
a
how they
target.
did that. It looks
But
really
this is
good.
just After Effects compositing. Like, this technology has been around for 20 years.
Yeah,
Right.
It's a really
exactly.
good
But
composite.
it's like this is the thing where it's like this idea of incremental, where it's like incremental control and incremental like steering, so to speak, where it's like you already are far left or far right, and you see something that supports your views, and you just kind of get that one extra bump in that direction. It's not like gonna completely go like, oh my God, President Trump ran around naked. No way. I'm never voting for him.
It further reinforces that one of the most important things we could be teaching in school right now is critical thinking.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like this is the thing that Captain Disillusion always talks about. I know, like he acknowledges that his videos are often like nitpicky sometimes on VFX, but he was really pointing out it's about skepticism and critical thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm honestly shocked and kind of saddened by how many people thought the Boston Dynamics video was real, because it does not take that much critical thinking to figure out that it's not. It might look 100% convincing, but the moment some dude takes out a gun and starts shooting it in the room, if you still think it's fake by that time, if you still think it's real by the time after that scene finishes and you still think it's real, you should really stop for a second and think about how willing you are to just take the world at face value, because the world, what you see is really not what's going on, and you need to be skeptical with your things. You need to take time and apply critical thought, because anybody can say anything, and just because it's written down doesn't mean it's true. And if you're just seeing somebody shooting a gun at a robot, you're like, oh yeah, that's real. You need to pause and think about the rest of your life and how much just
but
assuming is real.
we all make that all happens to us from time to time. You know, maybe it's like Saturday morning and you're hungover. Maybe it's like whatever, you know, like maybe you're at a baseball game, maybe you're like at a party, maybe, you know, there's so many different circumstances. It's not like every moment of every day you're your most self-conscious, like it's not like you're your best self every time you see a piece of information.
That's true.
You know,
That's
and
very
so
true.
there is a responsibility, I think, on the part of like the major social media platforms to continue to improve the way that information gets presented to people. Right now, clearly there's some gaping holes. And if it can be improved through like verified channels and the algorithm learning more and over time, I think that's the only direction that we can go in.
I'd agree. And once again, YouTube's leading the way on that.
Well, also, I mean, the thing is that
They
Nico, potentially a counterpoint to what you said of like, oh, you see a guy shooting a gun at a robot, you should know this is fake. Like, yes,
It's feasible.
It's also, that is the way we designed the video actually, which was to basically hold the viewer's hands for every step of the way. From when we start out, trying to keep it unassuming, just a robot. Next shot, it's just a robot doing basic Boston Dynamics things. Like, basically, there's one extra smack with a hockey stick, but that's already in Boston Dynamics videos. And so each shot tries to like do this, because like the original idea was the robot goes rogue in like shot 2, and the whole video is about it being rogue. And we were like, wait a second, no, like that should be like the cherry on top is like fighting back and going rogue. The rest of it completely unassuming and building to that. Just like with each piece perfectly interlocking. It's like, okay, you can hit it with the box, you can hit it with a chair, you can hit it with a bottle. But at that point, we've already smacked it with like a half dozen totally average things that when you break the bottle over it, Like maybe, yeah, if you are paying attention, that's the joke. That is the joke. But at the same time, for us to keep it quote unquote realistic, it's just that puzzle piece over that building block. So that by the time the gun comes out, you're like every step
But
kind of made sense. And
there's
so now
a belief retention that slowly goes down over time.
Yeah.
right?
ideally,
But-
to like that, at least that's what the thought was when we wrote it, was like, this is funny.
Like,
this is super funny. The chair out of the corner is like
the chair.
This is my favorite moment.
Then
of
it's
the entire
Weichman
video.
with the chair.
Yeah. So I mean, there's the thing is that we were kind of working against people's, like, I guess, suspension of disbelief, or no, not suspension of.
It
we
was
were
suspension of
working
disbelief.
towards their suspension of disbelief.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
when can it break? Like,
Like-
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we're just trying not to go like fake, like too loudly, you know. And if
Yeah.
we say fake, we're just like fake.
You're like the frog in boiling water,
Oh, yeah,
where it
no,
starts
that's
off room temperature and you
Yeah.
slowly turn up the heat, and the frog doesn't realize it's boiling until it's too late. Which, by the way, actually doesn't happen. Frogs know it's hot. They jump out before they boil.
If they can.
If they can, if you don't put the lid on.
All right.
Okay. Okay,
well,
I'm joking.
Does anyone else have anything else to say about this before we close these matters, before we adjourn?
Critical thinking. There we
Critical
go.
thinking.
I think that's a dope point.
That's a good point.
A dope ass point.
I just say, if you guys are following the Corridor channel, you're going to see an exploration of this, ideally in the next month or so.
Well, we've already been doing it.
mhm.
Primitive Tech and all these other videos were kind of like build up to that.
Other things they should teach in school: personal finance,
Oh my God, dude!
Taxes.
and
Why
small
not
business
taxes?
and taxes.
Hey,
Also,
What
like
is your-
business, how to like communicate.
Yeah,
Some
like small business
communication.
communications,
Oh my
taxes,
God,
personal
dude.
finance.
do you guys think they
Please.
should teach gun safety in school?
Absolutely.
Why not be more aware? Like, dude,
Yeah.
everything. Just be aware of everything.
Put it in
That's-
par-
Why
like,
not?
I don't know if you can like give them guns right away, but like start with like
what are you
airsoft
carrying?
guns.
What are you
know?
carrying today?
And maybe just like
Just basic gun safety.
have a
Even if it's not a real gun, yeah.
I would admit there's things that are far more important than that, and I wouldn't say like, hey, let's pass legislation to do that.
Right,
over way more important things. But if you're talking about an ideal situation where you can teach anything and everything, and it could be an elective.
Like,
Well,
when
I see what you're saying. I think the thing is not to interrupt, but I think
go
also like when you look at, all right, we're looking at physical education, we're looking at math or history or all these variants of that. You know, like math is the precursor to learning to do taxes still, you know. Obviously there's more advanced versions in reading and English and things like that, and physical education being a precursor to learning how to shoot guns, I guess. It's more of a machine shop kind of class. I feel like
It really is.
that's better. That's a better precursor. That and chemistry are no, physics and chemistry are precursors to gun safety.
But I was
a good thought
going
experiment.
through Will
Just a good thought
Smith's
experiment.
Instagram
I'm just
the
saying,
other
like,
day, and
where
he
do
said
you put that in?
one of the greatest threats to the world is fear, and I think that absolutely
Yeah.
Will Smith. One of the greatest
Wait,
problems.
you
one
just
of the
called
greatest,
him Will?
Will Smith.
I mean, we're friends now.
No, I said Will Smith.
Oh,
I didn't
just
say
heard-
Will.
I was going through Will's Instagram yesterday. I was like, oh, Will.
I said Will's, and then I think I like restarted Will Smith.
yeah.
Do you think his friends call him Bill?
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill.
Billiam.
Billion. But anyway, what he was saying was one of the greatest threats is fear, and I think that absolutely applies in a number of circumstances. And I think firearms is just another category in that.
Yeah, just be aware of everything. Just
Yep.
be aware.
The other thing too is like this wasn't like this when we were in high school, but at this point now, the internet has changed in a way where everybody's just constantly regurgitating information because that's how that's how you're ranked on Google. Like if our news article is new, you're gonna get views versus if it's old. So what happens is everybody's just in this churn of constantly rewriting stuff, and things aren't really researched anymore. It's literally some 20-year-old kid intern grabs an old article, bangs out another one by adding some extra words, and then posts it. And that happens a year later, happens a year later, happens a year later. And we're at this point now where there's like just a constant churn of fluff online where people are just constantly writing stuff. Like I've seen like when people post about our videos, for example, they've never called us, they never did any research. They just like flesh out 2 or 3 just fluff paragraphs.
Well, before CNN,
Yeah,
24-hour
one-
news didn't exist.
Not a
Yeah.
single
It
article.
wasn't
Yeah.
a concept. It wasn't like, hey, where can I constantly find news information? It's like, well, before that, people would go, well, there's no new information to talk about, so wait until this time.
Yeah, that's true. Not a single person, not a single article that was written about the Boston Dynamics video. Which there's a couple dozen of them at this point. None of them reached out for any further information or anything actually from the source, which is very interesting. So basically, everything they said was basically pure speculation.
Maybe they just thought it was that Russian guy.
Pure speculation or
Maybe.
obvious, like just obvious facts that are then like
They're in a warehouse.
worded out to sound more robust. But I think the point of making that is like there's no authority on information anymore. The only authority is your own critical thinking.
Wow.
All right, that's it, guys. Let's go.
I mean, there's some authority on information, but you're right. It's not the way that it used to be, for sure.
I mean, we say there's authority on information. You're right. There's some authority, but only if the actual sources and data are there. Like
Right.
the Spanish, like the main Spanish news network thought the Boston Dynamics video was real. They
Like
didn't even
Univision?
bother. No, not Mexican. Like Spain.
Oh,
Okay.
Spain.
Like they didn't even bother to read Bosstown Dynamics in the corner. They didn't even catch that. They thought it was a
I
Boston
didn't even
Dynamics
see that
video.
one.
Well, I knew that the
In the middle
behind
of
the
the day.
scenes, the behind the scenes was on the news.
No, they posted the actual video and they were talking about it in the middle of the day, saying like Boston Dynamics is abusing robots in their laboratory. And it's like, and once again, like it's clearly like it's some like 20-something-year-old person just sitting there like, oh, I gotta bang out a story real quick, talk about this, and like,
Yeah, drum up some anti-robot sentiment.
yeah, they spent 30 seconds doing the research and then out it goes.
That'll get views.
And it's like if those were like the Guardian's information 20 years ago, and that's what you're getting now is people just. It's just a YouTube channel at this point. People are just churning out content as fast as they can. Like,
It's funny. That's
Yeah.
super funny.
Yeah,
crazy.
That's hilarious. It's funny, but it's also sad at the same
Well,
time.
if you guys want to have a positive takeaway from this podcast, it's that the word heuristic means enabling a person to discover or learn something for themselves.
hey,
I like that word, heuristic.
And
Heuristic.
we are signing off.